Oh, Captain, my Captain. This is Club Fantasy's DFS Showdown breakdown videos. On this episode, we are going to be looking at the Packers versus the 49ers. I am the Captain, Joshua Hudson, and this is my compass, Austin Amandolia. Let's just talk real quick before we get into the picks. Austin, tell everybody where they can play these DFS Showdown videos against us.
Yeah, that's right. You can play with us on DraftKings and on FanDuel. There are links in the show description to each of our leagues where we have contests. We will have Showdown Slate specific contest on DraftKings for both this matchup, the Green Bay San Francisco game, and the Sunday night game between Kansas City and Buffalo.
All right, as mentioned, this is breaking down the DFS Showdown slate for the Packers 49ers. We've got some fun categories, and of course, when it comes to DFS, we all want to know who's the chalk, and that's what this first category is. It is Captain Chalk. This is the pick that everybody is likely to make because they are just that damn good. And Austin, we haven't seen Christian McCaffrey in 2 weeks. Is he still the chalk play?
You know... Yes, he definitely is. I still am kicking myself for ever thinking Elijah Mitchell was going to decrease his value, even in the slightest bit. He did not. Christian McCaffrey has been incredible this year. Do I even need to explain this? He only has 4 games under 20 DraftKings points this season. That is bonkers. That is wildly consistent. One of those games where he scored less than 20 DraftKings points was against Washington, and he left early with injury. They didn't need him to win that game either. They were doing just fine. And then the other game that he didn't score 20 points was a 42-10 blowout against the Dallas Cowboys. Again, didn't need McCaffrey. He probably didn't play all 4 quarters. So I feel great about him as a captain. Everybody's going to be doing this. So you may not want to in a large field tournament setting because there's no way to gain leverage on the field. But in those smaller contests, like if you're playing against us, he's a totally fine person to have in your captain spot.
For what it's worth, the best overall matchup within this game is San Francisco running backs versus the Green Bay run defense. Green Bay allows the 12th most DraftKings points to the running back position. Now, for every captain needs their mutineer. And that's exactly what this is. This is the Contrarian Captain choice that offers a little bit of variety and some upside in some of your larger tournament settings. Austin, sticking with the 49ers here. The crazy man, George Kittle, why is he a good option?
Yeah, I love George Kittle this week. He's probably going to be the person I play in the captain spot the most frequently. The reason for that is he leads the team in slot snaps, and believe it or not, he leads the team in receiving snaps. He's been out there running routes more than anyone else on the team, which really surprises me. The thing is, Green Bay doesn't often give it up to the number 1 receiver on a team because of Jair Alexander. Obviously, Alexander's getting older, so he's not kind of like OG Jair Alexander, but he's still been making it hard on opposing wide receiver 1. So he's probably going to be covering Brandon Ayuk a lot in this game. And Kittle is the next slot receiver up. He and another player that we're going to talk about later that may not be on your radar. So I just love George Kittle in this spot. He's effectively a receiver in this offense. And the thing is, people might get into redraft brain, but they're like, George Kittle, though, he could get me only 2 points. And so I don't want to start him. That's the exact reason we want to lean into him in this type of setting, is because the upside is so huge that it'll scare off the people who don't want to who want to avoid the potential floor, and it'll allow you to gain leverage on the field if he does pop off.
I'm only going to mention this person because you don't have him brought up on this show sheet. I want to talk a little bit about Deebo Samuel because I feel like for the exact reasons that George Kittle is a viable contrarian captain, so is Deebo Samuel. They use him. They move him around so much in this offense. They use him out of the backfield. We talked about how inefficient or incapable, really, that Green Bay is at stopping running backs. And when Deebo gets going between the tackles, he's gone. So having the defense focus on Brandon Ayuk and trying to slow down that wide receiver 1, they're kind of leaving themselves vulnerable elsewhere. So just my thought process on a contrarian pick. But The next category here is going to be your first mate. Every captain needs a reliable crew, and these are going to be the standouts that help maximize your lineup. We talked about a bunch of weapons on San Francisco. Now let's talk about the guy that's throwing them the football.
Yeah, Brock Purdy is going to be as reliable as they come because however the 49ers score a touchdown, Brock Purdy is most likely going to benefit. The only exception is any rushing touchdowns. And honestly, Christian McCaffrey is just as likely to get into the end zone through a receiving touchdown as a rushing touchdown. And it's been surprising, but Brock Purdy and Christian McCaffrey have pretty high correlation this year. They both kind of popped off together, and it's because McCaffrey does so good in the pass game. And again, the thing about the Shanahan offense is Purdy just has to get the ball in the hands of his playmakers, and they're going to do the rest. They will pop off, get 40 yards after the catch, and that's going to benefit Purdy. He's also been very consistent for fantasy this year. I don't know that I want to put him in a captain spot this week because he has to do a lot in order to make that happen. And there are other players that can get there more easily, but he's definitely a great player to have in your lineup, especially if you're playing a pass catching 49er in your captain spot.
So your next pick here, I find it really interesting because on the season, San Francisco has been they've defended the run really well. As of late, though, hasn't really been that. So talk to us a little bit about Aaron Jones.
Yeah, as of late, you're right. They have not been as good against the run. But most importantly, when it comes to Aaron Jones, is the fact that he has just been getting such consistent volume within this offense. He has 4 consecutive weeks with at least 20 touches and 100 yards. That is incredible volume. And you're right, Josh. Since week 15, San Francisco has allowed 23 points per game to opposing running backs. That's still not a ton, but A.J. Dillon doesn't really get those touches. That's going to be Aaron Jones getting most of those points. And if he gets you 20 points, that's enough. That's plenty for you to have in your lineup. So I feel really good about it. Also, if Green Bay gets down, Aaron Jones likely gets some targets out of that, so that can help boost his floor. I don't see a way that this game goes where Aaron Jones gets phased out of the offense. It's really about injury risk, which sure is always there, but I think with the amount of volume he's been getting, he's a worthwhile play.
Yeah, you mentioned since week 15, 49ers allow 5 yards a carry to the running back position. This is what Aaron Jones is built for. So, yeah, I'm in on that pick, especially to help kind of fill out the lineup. I also wouldn't hate it even as like a contrarian captain, but just my personal opinion. Next category here is going to be your deck scrubbers. These are going to be your cheaper punt play options that can make a lineup based on one play or limited opportunity. Austin, you kind of teased this guy. Jauan Jennings? Really?
Yeah, Jauan Jennings. So he has the second most slot snaps out of any 49er pass catcher in this offense. And so I'm essentially leaning into the fact that Green Bay is not great against slot receivers. And so this is a way to beat up on them and a way to get fantasy points on them. I really like this spot. Also, 49ers have had 2 weeks to game plan. They could bring some funky stuff on offense. So they might be able to get Jauan Jennings involved early, kind of throw the Packers off the scent, and then they can go and target their typical players who are always there to smash. So I like Jauan Jennings just because salary is good, opportunity should be there. Another 49er I'm interested in is Elijah Mitchell, because why not? He has at least 15 touches in his past 2 games. Now, we have to caveat this with Christian McCaffrey was in and out of the lineup in those games. He completely missed week 18. So I wouldn't go overboard with Elijah Mitchell. But if you think that this is a game where the 49ers get up by 2 touchdowns early and they're just trying to preserve the clock, they're trying to run out the clock and trying to keep that lead, Elijah Mitchell may get a lot of run while they're ahead, because what was the thing that killed the 49ers last year? Injuries. It was mostly Brock Purdy going out. They cannot afford to have a guy like Christian McCaffrey get injured in this game. So if they are up by 2 or 3 touchdowns, they do not need to risk Christian McCaffrey's health if they want to make the Super Bowl run. So I think Elijah Mitchell is a really good play to have in your lineup if you're expecting this to be a blowout and for the 49ers to be playing from ahead.
It's a little expensive for my taste when it comes to the what if. 3,200 on DraftKings. I don't know how I'm feeling about that one. But your last pick, you finally bring up a Green Bay Packers pass catcher when the San Francisco pass defense has kind of been doo-doo this season. And it's not even a wide receiver. Talk to us about Luke Musgrave.
Yeah, it's just, it's a little tough to figure out which of these receivers you want. And that's the thing that's really fun about the Green Bay team. So, like I said last week, you could probably play any Green Bay pass catcher except for one that I'm going to talk about later and be just fine. But I do really like Luke Musgrave. Green Bay is probably going to need to pass the ball to keep up in this game just because San Francisco's offense is so explosive. Unless Green Bay takes an early lead, they're probably going to be passing the ball pretty frequently. Also, San Francisco has allowed 18 points per game to the tight end position since week 15. The concern could be, does Luke Musgrave get that or does Tucker Kraft get that? I think Luke Musgrave is still their tight end one, and now he's going to be another week coming off of injury, back integrated into this offense. So I like this spot for him. I think he's a good play. I think particularly because the other pass catchers have been getting more attention, he's a more interesting punt play this week.
So before we get into the final parts here, I want to ask, is Jaden Reed going to put up another dud? Or is it okay to start making some prop bets on him?
He might.
It's not the answer I wanted, Austin.
I mean, that's the thing about this offense. Any of the receivers could put up a dud. Romeo Doubs, after the week he had last week, could go out and do 1 for 5, and that'd be it. Like, that's just the nature of how this offense is set up. It's the Kansas City offense of last year, where it's going to be a different guy every week. And you got to lean into that. And instead of trying to shy away from it and say, I'm not going to play Green Bay pass catchers, shoot your shot. We're sports betting. You're making decisions assuming you're going to lose money. That's the way you have to think about this. And so shoot your shot while you're doing it.
All right. One more time for the people. You can play these DFS showdowns against us. Hit the links below in the description of the video. Come play on DraftKings. Come play on FanDuel. Pick your poison. I like winning money, so, maybe you can take mine. Probably take Austin's because he's already admitted he's not very good at these. I kid. That's why we're doing these showdown videos, because he is good at breaking these down. But with that, let's get to the final segment. It is called The Kraken, because every ship needs a villain. And you know what? These are the picks that are likely going to sink your ship. We talked a little bit about Green Bay wide receivers, and there's clearly one that you are way out on, Austin.
Yeah, so I'm out on Christian Watson. I was out on him last week. I'm still out on him. The thing I wrote in our show sheet, he has that Julio Jones hamstring. Like, that was the thing that sunk everybody who is in on Julio Jones as he got older.
It's true.
He would come in, he'd catch 3 balls, be out the rest of the game. That's what I'm worried about with Christian Watson right now. He only got 1 catch last week. He's been dealing with his hamstring on and off all season. So I'm nervous about playing him because the injury risk feels higher than it does for other players. Because I say this, who knows? He probably plays all 4 quarters, but there's enough pass catchers and weapons in this offense that if they don't need Christian Watson, he may not play a ton.
All right, and the next guy on your list. Look, I don't know how many people are rushing to go play a fullback in their lineup, but you know what? Kyle Juszczyk gets a little bit of run, so those cheaper dart throws, I can see people getting tempted by him.
Yeah, this is the perfect time where people will be like, oh yeah, Kyle Juszczyk, this is the time. He's probably going to score a touchdown just because I did this, but don't count on it. He's not consistent. You can't predict when he's going to score a touchdown. He's a weird gadget player. He's like what Taysom Hill used to be, where he would come in for 1 snap and have 1 play designed for him, and it could pop off for a touchdown or not. So I'm avoiding it. Too hard to predict, and most likely the upside isn't there for it to matter in your lineup.
Look, if it comes down to spending 1,000 on him or 1,800 on AJ Dillon, give me the 1,000 on Juszczyk. I'm just saying. right, and this has been Oh Captain, My Captain. This has been our DFS Showdown breakdown of the Packers and San Francisco 49ers. Stay tuned on this page. We have other videos for the divisional round weekend slate. Texans, Ravens on the page, as well as the Bucks, Lions, and the Chiefs and Bills. We'll see you for the next one.